been shot at. I have been targets of a drive-by shooting. In gangs, everything. In Branson, Missouri, I lived there for a little while. I was held hostage by an Irish mob gang member for 7 days in a hotel. Beat, raped, tortured. I was raped 3 times in county jail by an officer.
Welcome to the Matt and Monica podcast. We have an amazing guest. Her name is Betsy. She has literally one of the most amazing life stories I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I was going to say the end of her story will give you chills, but it's not over yet.
Yeah.
And
no, it's just beginning,
yes.
arguably. And
yeah,
I have to do a shout out because I met her on a podcast website through another guy named Christopher Camp, and he's doing great things in this world. So I got to give a shout out to him, especially because if it weren't for him, I would have never heard any of her story. And then,
and I want to thank you, Betsy, for reaching out so fast.
Absolutely.
Like I was like, whoa.
I am delighted. Really cool. I have to get it out, y'all.
So just to give people a recap of kind of like a really skinny version of like what you're going to go over, I kind of just want people to know what you're going to talk about before.
Point blank, I know you need to get people's attention off the flip. I'm a 5-time convicted felon in the state of Missouri. I've been to prison 6 times. I was a meth addict for 25 years. I've been sober 18 months, and recovery is a choice. So I'm just here to tell my story and let people know that there's hope and there is a way. And I just want you to hear my deepest, darkest secrets, because secrets do keep you sick. And then maybe, somebody out there that's stuck in where I was, I want you to know that there's a way out.
Absolutely.
Yes, that makes my heart so happy that
and I think
here.
It's so much more relatable. Like all the stuff you've been through, it's like, there's a lot of people out there that are incredibly judgmental, and it's so easy to be judgmental, but like how many people's lives nowadays have been affected negatively from narcotics and opioids and, you name it. It's everywhere.
Yep.
But
yeah.
You can, if you want to kick off, I don't know where you'd want to start, but
I'll just start from the beginning. I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. We lived there till I was about 4 or 5. I have one sister. She's 2 years younger. And then when we started elementary school, my dad moved us to South Haven, Mississippi, which was right up the road. We grew up in a good family. Mom and dad were there. They were married. They didn't drink. They didn't cuss. We grew up in church. Mom and dad were youth directors growing up. So, I had a faith Christian upbringing. But, as a teenager, I rebelled. We moved when I was 14 out to Eudora, Mississippi. And that sounds so country, but it is. It's way out in the outskirts of Hernando, Mississippi, and we had 50 acres. When we moved out there, our whole family the easiest way to say is went their own separate ways. My sister did her own thing. I did my own thing. My mom and dad worked different shifts. So my mom was like home during the week and worked weekends. My dad worked during the week and was home weekends. And so everybody just was kind of distant. And that's when I think I started rebelling. I fell into a depression. Rebelling because, we lived in the city in a big house and all my friends are up there. And then boom, I had to move to a different school in the middle of high school. I grew up playing basketball, volleyball, softball. I ran track.
You got some height, if I remember
right. I'm 6'1", so and my son's 6'8", my youngest daughter's 6'4", so. But I remember just being so angry at my dad. Like, why are you putting me out here in this country? And I kind of fell into a depression. At a young age like that, you really don't know how to show emotion or deal with any kind of feelings. So my mom, of course, took me to a counselor. I was on depression medicine at a young age. And I can remember, like, I didn't know how to deal with all that. So I'm just going to start out raw. I started self harm, um, cutting. Um, I tried to do everything my parents told me not to, I mean, just see what I can get
So
away
many
with.
kids.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then, a lot of people, this world's judgmental, and nobody understands like the cutting or the self harm when you are that young. Um, you don't know how to deal with what's going on the inside and your emotions. So that emotional pain. So for me, the physical pain took all of that away. That started when I was 14, but then by the age of 19, I had stopped doing that and turned to drugs. So, you know, there's really no way for me to explain to these kids out there that are struggling on the inside. You've got to learn a way to cope and handle things differently. Otherwise, nowadays people think, oh, you need to be in a psych hospital, or you need to be on meds. Bottom
Yeah,
line,
kids aren't
go ahead.
I was going to say kids aren't given the tools to learn how to cope with their emotions, good and bad, whatever, and then to ask for help if they're feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
You're right.
Absolutely.
They don't know who to go to or what to say. I think they get embarrassed probably and they feel so alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
There's so
they
many kids out
do.
there that are going through
And then also, at a young age like that, when you start the self harm, you're going to get a name in the hospitals. You're going to get a name with the judgmental world. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, I have scars all over my arms, like that are just from me cutting. I know one time it was so bad, I cut an artery in my arm. And I remember my mom being there and blood just shot all in her face. And I mean, I kind of got addicted to it, I guess, in a way. I mean, I can't even really explain it unless somebody's been there. Um,
Yeah.
but you're right. There is no really way to teach a child how to deal with the emotional pain. But I want the kids to know and understand, like, you can reach out, you can talk, just be honest about it. I wasn't trying to
Yeah.
kill
Yeah.
myself, but it was just, I was trying to get that emotional pain gone and the
Mm-hmm.
physical pain took over. So
Yeah.
then the emotional pain went out. But then, as I got older, at the age of 19, I stopped all that and started using drugs and I went straight to meth. Of course, at the beginning, it was just kind of a weekend thing. Somebody had it, this person had it, we're at a party. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then let me back up a little bit. At 17, my mom and dad divorced. I'm not going to go really big into that. I was a daddy's girl growing up. We haven't talked in 23 years.
Hmm.
But that did something to me because I didn't
Yep.
understand why, and I thought it was my fault. So that's kind of when I started, dabbling with the drugs too, because the self harm wasn't working anymore. So then that first feeling that you get with it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm numb and I don't have to feel. So I was like, I like
Mhm.
that, but
Yep.
I have an addictive personality that runs in my family. So I was hooked. Then me and my mother moved back up to South Haven. I found out I was pregnant at 17 and I had my first daughter at 18. But she was amazing and she really helped my mom get through the divorce. It was hard on all of us.
Mhm.
Um, but then I'll go ahead and fast forward a little. I used here and there. At the age of 24, my grandmother got sick. And up until this point, I mean, I was using trying to cover it up. Of course, my family knew. At the age of
Mm-hmm.
24, I started using the needle. A friend of mine reached out to my aunt in Missouri and was like, "Hey, Betsy's bad off." So she came and was like, "Betsy, Grandma's sick. I've heard about what's going on with you. Why don't you come? And this is a new start."
I just want to ask real quick. I don't want you to lose track though. When you say use a needle, was that strictly because you can shoot meth, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It was
Yeah.
meth. I
Okay.
was always an uppers person. It was meth or cocaine, and I would do
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
it with the needle. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
and I just want to throw in real quick and interject also because a lot of listeners they may hear this for the first time and not heard any of our other episodes. My sister, she lost a battle to an opioid addiction 3 years ago. So this definitely hits me close to home. But anyway, sorry, you keep
No,
going.
it's fine, and it's sad. I have lost a lot too.
A
Um,
lot of people.
a lot of
Yeah.
people, and I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
the number grows every day,
It
and
does.
Oh yeah, I
it's
read online it's the number one cause of death for people 50 and under in the United States. Now, granted, I read that online, doesn't mean it's true, but it's very possible because I know so many people that have overdosed from my
We
class.
all know so many people that have, and it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to say the statistics are true, and unless you've lived, I guess, in that lifestyle on the streets, the gang banging, the drugs, all that, like me, I mean, you see it firsthand, and there's a lot of people like drug felons or addicts, and that do pass away that people don't know about because the justice
Yeah.
system shoves all that underneath the rug. I'll
Yep.
get to that. I have a part of my story on that, and we'll get to that part in a little bit. But my aunt came and got me. So at 24, I moved to Missouri, and I'm going to tell y'all this is a very important statement. If you are not ready to change, it doesn't matter where you go. You are always going to hear change, people, places, things. That that's true. But unless you are ready completely to change yourself
Yeah.
on the inside, become somebody new, not just do something new, it's not going to
Yeah.
work. Because
Yeah.
I'm living proof.
I agree 100%
Yeah,
with
you
you.
can get shit
Yes.
anywhere nowadays.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You have to, something has to click in your head. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. I want a better life for
Yeah.
myself, my friends, my family, my kids. Something clicks, and then you have to decide for yourself when you want to change.
Yeah.
You're right. And another thing too, like drug addiction doesn't show prejudice.
Yep.
Like before, I guess let me back up a little bit more. Like when I lived in Mississippi, before I moved to Missouri, I worked at the courthouse for the circuit clerk. I met my first husband there. He was a sheriff's deputy. We ended up getting married. And then I was a bail bondsman for 3 years. So, I mean, it doesn't care. It doesn't matter where you come from and who you are, what you're doing.
Nope. Yep.
It will suck you in.
And, I also want to say it doesn't matter really how you were brought up either. You could have the worst life or the best life in childhood, whatever, and you could be pulled into a situation where you're doing stuff like that.
It's a really common mindset to think, oh, drugs, like especially meth and heroin and stuff like that, that only affects bad people.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
There's so many people that are doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really, really shitty people that are doing that, and we all know that. But there are so many good people that are caught up in that stuff that just need help. Until
it starts killing the right people. And when I say the right people, I mean like people of high status, not just regular people like us. I don't think there's much of a spotlight that's going to be shed on it.
Yeah, but even like when you hear about actors or people of high status overdosing, which very rarely they'll say that, but what happens? There's no change even when you know people that are higher up, whatever. When that stuff happens, nothing's done. Nothing's talked about. So, yeah.
And that's true. And I have a lot of friends. I won't mention names and point the finger, but I know people that were judges, attorneys that ended up going to prison. They did fed time because of drugs. And I mean, they have a testimony now, and they're out there telling it too. Because, like I said, it doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. If you start messing with the hard stuff, it is going to get you. Point blank. Period. But when I moved up to Missouri, I wasn't there long. And like I said, I wasn't ready to change. I fell into the same crowd. And I don't think I really even put this in my story with Chris. It was September 24th of 2006. I had cleaned out my needle in a cup of water and I left that sitting out overnight. I don't want to trigger anybody, but this is the only way for me to say it. I used that same water the next day, thinking nobody else did. It's mine. I got a bacterial infection and went septic on the inside. I was airlifted from Kennett, Missouri to Memphis, Tennessee. I was in ICU for 4 weeks. My heart stopped 4 times. One of those times was over 7 minutes. They said it was brain damage. I'd never walk. I'd never talk again. Um, and it was all just the water, and the sick thing about it, when I finally got out of ICU and was in a hospital room, I remember the doctor coming in, and I was like, Doc, I need to know, was it the dope? Was it the water? And he said, the water. I said, from now on, I'll use bottled water. That's sick.
Yeah, like
And
your mind. Yeah.
yeah, because it just consumed me and it had taken
Hmm.
over. And I know when I wasn't using, I was feeling that pain from my dad not wanting to be in my life. So after that, like my family was done with me and I moved in with a buddy and ended up getting married to him. That was my second husband. He had a bar, a restaurant, and it was just the wrong crowd. Because when a full blown addict hangs out around that, it's not going to end good. I'm the type, if I drink, by the end of the night, I would be intravenously using methamphetamine because that was my addiction. That was the high I chased. And that's what took everything away. But bottom line, when you're done with it, is all your problems come back times 10.
Hmm.
After I got out of the hospital, I was married to him probably 8 months. We divorced. So I was going from Kennett, Missouri to back to Mississippi or Memphis every day after that. And I decided, let me stop doing the meth. It put me in the hospital. Now I'm going to do the cocaine. So I had a best friend and I would go back and see him. We would party every day. I mean, Memphis and Kennett is about 2 hour drive. So it's not that bad. And
Hmm.
I got so bad off. I remember cutting myself up and I called my mom and she came up there and was like, Betsy, what do you want to do? I said, I need help. I want to go to rehab. At this point, it was August of 2005. I was 25 years old. That was my first trip to rehab. When I got out, my best friend that I was going back to party with overdosed and passed away. So that right there opened my eyes a little bit. I decided to, I said, I just did this rehab. I have a little bit of tools. I'm going to do this. My mom moved up and was taking care of me. We all lived together. At this point, I had Kelsey, Christopher. I have 3 children, just so you know, Kelsey, Christopher, and Caitlin. They would hurt me if I don't put them on here. But so they were young. Christopher and Kelsey were young. And so me and mom lived together. Well, I met my third husband at this time. He had lived in the same apartment buildings that we did. He had gotten ran over by a car. The first 6 months of our relationship, he was in a wheelchair. So I took care of him. But I was clean at the time. Well, but then you have somebody that's popping pain pills every morning and throws you one. So we would get up every morning, take pain pills, drink coffee. What did I say before? It led me right back to the meth. So
Yeah.
me and him started doing it heavy. Um, we ended up getting married. It was March 5th. I'm sorry. I hope he's not watching this. November 5th of 2006. We're still married, but we've been separated 11 years. But I ended up pregnant and with my third daughter, Caitlin, the one I told y'all that is 6'4". Um, we found out I was pregnant and we stopped using. When I was 5 months pregnant, he brought it back around because he couldn't do it himself. He had to have me to help him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't have this around me and I'm an addict. And so I'm not going to blame him. I'm taking full blame. It was my choice and I chose to use 5 months pregnant, shooting methamphetamine. I felt guilty and said, you know what? Cocaine would probably be better for the baby. Let me do that. That's wrong. But I did it all the way up until she was born. And actually, the cocaine made me go into premature labor. My placenta ruptured. So we had to be rushed to the hospital. When I got there, they did an emergency C section. Um, DFS was called. And when we left the hospital, they took her. So me and my husband at the time had to go. We went to drug court in the state of Missouri. And I'm not going to lie, that was the happiest time of our life because we were clean. We were sober. I was working. We had structure. And I guess you could say we were accountability partners. We had to do drug tests every day. We were raising our daughter. I got her back after 3 months. We did the program. It was a 2-year program. She got to come, I got custody back. She was home. And y'all, the day that we graduated, he had somebody in the parking lot with needles and drugs. And I said, we cannot do this because he says, oh, yeah, we've
Mm.
been clean 2 years. We can do it one time. I said, we
That makes
can't.
me sad.
Yeah. I said, we can't
Yeah.
because you've never been made to stop. I have. I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen. We're going to start using. Then we're going to have it every day before work. Then it's going to come to the point we can't afford it. Then you're going to start cooking. And then in 6 months, we'll be in prison. And I hit the nail on the head. 6 months later, we went to prison. That was my first trip. Um, that then just started my in and out, in and out. And I told y'all I'm a 5-time convicted felon. The first two charges were drug related, but I'm going to say the other three, if I hadn't have been using, I wouldn't have done it.
I have a
So,
question.
yes,
When so when you were using, you guys were doing it like every morning and stuff. How did you go to work and function, or did you not?
we did function
Hmm.
with the meth. It kind of gets you to a point to where you have no energy if you don't do it. That's in the beginning. Now, I did it 25 years. If I was to do it today, I'd go to sleep because long term meth use causes adult ADHD. Um, there's a lot of side effects that happen after long term use. Um, and like I'm ADHD now, I take medicine, but for that's the only thing. But there's
Hmm.
no amphetamine in it. Um, but like if I don't have it, I can't focus. I can't do anything. I start 100 things and never finish one. And
Yeah.
it got to the point with the meth. It helped me focus towards the end. Um, it didn't give me energy anymore. But then nowadays you don't know what they're putting in it. Fentanyl's going in it. People are having heart attacks because you can't do the up down mixing it. That it will stop your
Mhm.
heart because your heart doesn't know what to do.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but in and out of prison 6 times. I was not a good mom. Um, here I am now. I have 3 kids. I'm thankful for my family because they stepped up, and I was always the mom. I thought that I was making a good choice. I wasn't going to drag my kids through the dope house. I wasn't going to have them in trap houses. I wasn't going to be around them when I was high. So I shoved them off on family. But in the long run, as my kids were older, they said, Mom, we just wanted you.
Mm.
So I was thinking, there was an excuse I told myself, oh, they're going to be okay. I'm not around it. I'm not going to be high around them. And I was wrong. I should have made better choices.
Hey
Um,
Betsy,
yes.
not to sorry, I hate to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
As far as like when do you get to the point where like cuz you're the opposite of 99.9% of other
Users.
addicts.
Hmm.
You actually admit that you're wrong. Like
Yeah.
most, not all addicts, until they hit a point, and I don't know what that point has to be, they deny everything. They blame everybody else for their issues. And you
Yeah.
are the exact opposite. Were you at one point in time, did you blame everybody else for your issues?
I did. I would say in the beginning, I used like my dad leaving as an excuse. I'm gonna go get high. My daddy don't love me. Um, and then it got to the point I kept hearing everybody's like, "That's an excuse. Why do you do it?" So then I was
Hmm.
like, you know what? F it. I do it because I like it. It takes me out of the norm. Um, my bottom was, and you go through rehabs. I've been to a lot. I probably can't even sit here and tell you how many I've been to. They all
Hmm.
teach the same thing, but if you don't take what they give you and use it, it's not going to work. um when I finally realized, like, everybody's sick and tired of hearing this, like, I can't blame this on nobody else. It's my fault. um I just, I guess we'll kind of just skip up because this is really the most important part. um After 25 years of using, I remember reaching out to my mom and my oldest daughter. And I was like, look, I am sick and tired. It's not getting me high anymore. I am mentally a monster. I don't even know what to do with myself. I need help. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get into rehab. I'm sick of not having y'all in my life. They were done. I said, what do I do? And they told me, we don't know. We don't care. Get it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Get help yourself. That was my bottom. Y'all, I have been in countless abusive relationships. I've had every bone in my face broke. I have been shot at. I have been targets of a drive-by shooting. In gangs, everything. In Branson, Missouri, I lived there for a little while. I was held hostage by an Irish mob gang member for 7 days in a hotel. Beat, raped, tortured. I was raped 3 times in county jail by an officer. But of course, none of that's ever done anything about. Oh, I'm the wrong one because I was the criminal. Well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
here to tell y'all now it happened, and it happens because I did 11 years total in the penitentiary, and you see it all day long. But they think, oh, they're going to believe us. Well,
Yeah.
but in that hotel room, when I was held hostage, like, I don't remember ever feeling any pain. And that's just because I feel like maybe God was there with me. I know that it
Mm.
ended me up in the hospital in ICU with brain damage. I had bleeding on the brain. I had esophagus like damage. This man I know for 6 hours, he kept his hand around my throat. And if I didn't tell him what he wanted to hear, if I didn't give him a password, if I, whatever, I mean, he would choke me unconscious. And then a few times, I mean, because they had to do blood work and check, they said, your heart stopped a few times. So he had to give me CPR to bring me back. Um, that wasn't even my bottom. My bottom was reaching out to my mom and my kid, and they said, we don't care. We're sick of it. You've cried wolf so many times.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember at that point, I just went to the hospital in South Haven, Mississippi, and I said, "Look, I'm suicidal. I'm sick. I haven't had my meds, and I don't know how long. I just want to die. I want to kill myself." And they told me, "Well, we need your ID," and I gave it to them. And I remember them saying, "Well, we can't help you because your ID doesn't match what we have in the computer." And I looked at her like, "What?" So I wasn't going to take
Wow.
that for an answer because I was at the point I really was serious. I wanted help. So I went to a parking lot and went through my car, probably left half the stuff in my car in the parking lot. But I found my old prison ID and it had the name that they wanted. So I went back and they kept me. And
How
they,
can anyone be pushed away when they're asking for help?
right. And I said, I want to die. I'm suicidal. And they said no. So, that right there, I was just like, wow, I've got to do this for me because nobody's going to help me. If I want to change and I want help, I've got to do it. So at that point, I made up my mind that I'm going to do whatever it takes. I was in the hospital, I think, for like 2 days because I was also sick, bronchitis or something. But the social service people in the hospital came and they sat down and I said, look, yeah, I'm a user, and I don't want to go back out there to that. So they reached out to Vertava Health, and that starts with a V. Vertava. It sounds funny, probably coming out of me with my
Your
southernness.
accent.
But now today it's called Woodland. There was a rehab, I went to. It was probably maybe they teach the same thing in all of them, but I was just at a point in my life I was really paying attention and I was desperate. But the people that worked there, every single person had a past. They were ex users. Everybody cared. And, it was just amazing because they said, look, if a counselor sits down and says, hey, I've been there, let me tell you a little bit, you're going to zone in and say, okay, well, they're clean and sober and look at them. They're
Mhm.
doing it. So I need to listen. So that program, I did the 30 days and then I went to their next step program and that was like a 60-day thing. I graduated and then I ended up back with my first husband, the one that was the cop. But y'all, I wasn't using when I left there, but mentally I was in a bad place. Right after I got out of rehab, my son's father, we found out he passed away. And I'm going to go into detail about this, and I haven't on air before. So, Me and my oldest daughter, Kelsey, got the call. We were coming back from Jonesboro, Arkansas. And a buddy of mine said, "Hey, Andy just died. Get to the house." So we make it there in like 30 minutes. It should have took 2 hours. I mean, she was driving. We were balls to the wall. We were there. And I remember pulling up, and the coroner was just pulling out. That was January 27th of 2023, my birthday. He passed away January 23rd. So he laid in that house, locked in a room from the outside for 4 or 5 days, dead. Me and Kelsey got there. When we got out of the car, there was like probably 8 detectives, 6 cops, everybody's gagging. I mean, the smell was horrendous. And me being me, I guess, I jump out and I'm like, "So, have y'all done anything? Do you know anything? Have y'all asked questions? Have you questioned anybody? Do you know who's in the house? I can give you their names." And they just looked at me like I was dumb. I said, "I am the baby mama. What is going on?" And I couldn't get them to talk to me. They wouldn't do anything. So me and my daughter bust up in there. We get hit in the face as we're walking in with pot potpourri spray because they're trying to get rid of the smell. And I said, "Y'all have got to be kidding me that y'all didn't know that somebody was in here dead for 5 days and it smells like this." I have no understanding. Me and my daughter had to go into the back room and clean up the scene. Of course, there's blood everywhere. For an overdose on fentanyl, I don't know how that happens, but there was. We cleaned it up. I hate that my daughter had to see that, but she grew up with me. I was young when I had her, and she was strong like I was. So we cleaned it all up, and I remember finding there was a piece of paper in the floor, so I picked it up and opened it. It's the coroner paper. It said on there, like maybe known medical conditions, whatever. It was written, known drug addict, convicted felon, has been to prison, does not qualify for an autopsy. And it was wadded up, thrown on the floor. So I'm raging mad. I'm hurt. I'm upset. Me and Kelsey clean it up. We leave. Mentally at this time, I just fell off. I was in a dark place. He was my best friend. Tracy was there. He's the one now that, he was my first husband. We got together then, and then this happened. And then mentally, I just kind of fell off, and I was hard to deal with. So me and him didn't really work out then. I didn't use again, but I wasn't in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember being in a hotel and I called my mom and I was like crying. I don't know what to do. I can't handle this. I can't deal with this. My son is 20. He's in Florida going to school. My youngest daughter and my mom are in Idaho. And then I'm in Mississippi. Kelsey's married. She has her own life. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I need my family and y'all aren't here. And me and my mama cried together and she said, "Betsy, you just got to pray. That's the only thing I know to tell you to do." So I remember laying in that bed and I said, "God, just take my life. I can't do this anymore. Here I get clean. And then now it's always something. I see, like, I need you. I guess I need you finally." And I said, "But just if you're not going to help me take my life, I'm ready to die." And bottom line, he did. He took that old life and he gave me a new one. Um, my best friend growing up in high school, we played basketball together. Um, after high school, we kind of just went our separate ways. She's married to a preacher. Her father-in-law is a preacher. She has a ministry. And we hadn't talked in 20 years. And after I said that prayer, my phone rang about 5 seconds later. And it was her. I don't know how she got my number.
That is like insane.
I don't know how she got my number, but she did. And she said, "Betsy, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like God wanted me to check on you. Are you okay?" And I lost it. I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not okay." And everybody knew about my drug use. It wasn't a secret. And I remember me and her being on the phone for like 4 hours and calling every crisis center, every drug rehab, every mental health place that to try to get me into. And no, nothing worked out. And she said, listen, her family helped me. They put me in a hotel that night, sent me food. Um, the next morning she called me. She said, I have a phone number for you and I want you to call. And the lady's name was Ann Lunsford. She has a ministry in Hernando, Mississippi called Precious in Pink. And what she does is she goes into the jails and she teaches about God. Well, she started it like 16 years ago and she kept seeing the same pattern. These girls are coming in, they're leaving, and they're coming right back. And she's like, I don't understand. And they would just tell her, we went right back out to the same thing. We have nowhere to go. So Miss Ann started bringing the girls home with her. So
Huh.
it was funny because I called her and I said, Miss Ann, I don't know you, but I need you. And she said, where are you? I'm on my way. So she came to the hotel and picked me up. And it's funny because I always tell everybody in my testimony, I was the stray, the hotel was the pound, and she rescued me.
Yeah.
So there I went into her program and no internet.
Can I say something real? I want to interject real
Yes.
quick and just like the power of somebody just genuinely caring, like unconditionally, like somebody
Without
just
wanting anything in return.
unconditionally
Just, yes.
loving and caring. Like that's something that I feel like is going away in this day and age.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's going to come back, I believe. I just think I think it needs a spotlight on it, kind of like for people like you right now. Like you have no idea what your little act of kindness can do for people.
That's
It's
absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
Well,
sorry, you keep going.
yeah. Well, and I went to her house. She had a big 5,000 square foot house. And there I was able to get off all my mental health meds. That's where I met Stacy Dodd, and I want to mention him. I mean, he's a very big inspiration in my life. He has a story too. I'm not going to go into it because maybe one day y'all will get to hear it, and you can look him up and find it. But
Yeah.
he has a history, and he was a drug addict and ended up being a CEO of a company. He ran a drug rehab. Now he has started his own ministry. Him and his wife came over. His wife Stephanie was on Miss Ann's board, and he sat down and actually gave us these books right here. Celebrate
Mm-hmm.
Recovery on the inside. Um, and he is the state representative in Mississippi for Celebrate Recovery. And he sat down and just took the time out to tell me his story. He didn't know me. And he told all of it. And I said, so you're telling me you have the same history as me. You've been to the same prison as me in Missouri, and you had mental health issues and all that, and you don't take anything, and you don't do drugs. I said, how? And he looked me in the eye and said, Betsy, God can save anybody, any place, anytime. And I remember making the decision right then. I'm going to stop bugging Miss Ann. Take me to the doctor. I need my medicine. So, I made the decision. I said, I'm going to try this. And I hit my knees and I just remember praying, God, I'm going to surrender my life to you. I ask you now with complete surrender and with true honesty, like come into my heart. I was saved at a young age, but I really didn't know what it meant. And I said, I want you to come into my heart. I'm going to surrender everything to you. Take full control of me because I can't control anything. Look where I'm at. And
Mm-hmm.
from that point on, it was just like my shoulders, the weight was lifted off. It wasn't easy. I mean, it's a step when you, I guess, turn your life over to God and you make that decision to want to change. Life doesn't stop. It's still going to happen. And it was a struggle. Well, there was 15 girls living with Miss Ann in this house, and I'm going to tell y'all, I went to prison. I did a long time, 11 years total, in and out 6 times. That was easy. Prison was easy
Mm.
because everybody's on the same page. Everybody in the head is on the same level because they have to be there. They know when and if they're getting out. At Miss Ann's, everybody was on a different page. Everybody, in their faith was different. Some people were in there because they had to be court ordered. So when you have
Mm.
all women like that some are mad because you're there, some are using behind their back, you really have to make a decision like, okay, this is going to happen on the outside of here. So Betsy, you got to learn to deal with it. So, I got in my Bible and I prayed hard. And I remember reaching out to my oldest daughter and was like, look, I found this program. Come see me. She came and saw me like the first weekend I was there and surprised me with my youngest daughter because, like I told y'all, my mom and her lived in Idaho, and I hadn't seen Caitlin at this point. It had been a long time. So they came up and I got to see her, and she got out of the car and I had to reach up on my tippy toes to hug her, but it was a good moment, and
How long? When you say long time,
8 years,
that means a lot.
8 years,
How long?
8.
Holy
years.
shit. Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
thought I remember it being.
That is a long
Well,
time.
and
Yeah, a long time for me to not see my kids is like
A week.
a week, and I'm like feeling sick,
Yeah.
the
and
reason my mama took her to Idaho, like she told me after my second trip to prison, Betsy, you get in trouble again, I'm taking Caitlin and we're moving out to my family in Vegas. I was like, whatever. Okay, mom, okay. And I remember getting to prison my third time and I called, hey, I'm here, just letting you know. And I said, what are you doing? She said, packing up. I said, for what? She said, I told you, get in trouble again. I'm taking Caitlin and I'm going to Idaho. Out to Vegas. So she was 3 then. So they were in Vegas from 3 to until she turned 7. And then Mama gave me another chance. And Caitlin and her moved back to Missouri, and they were there for a year. So Caitlin was 7 to 8. Um, and of course, I wasn't ready to change, and a lot of things happened during that time. Um, I'll go ahead and just, say it. Like my daughter was almost 8, and a guy that I had been dating, of course, we were using. Um, he molested my daughter. But of course, I didn't find out until she was 12. After I went back to prison, it was the fourth.
Betsy, I just want to say with that specific topic, like how, that shit also, just like this drug issue, like that stuff happens, I think, astronomically more than anybody can imagine, especially when there's
Yeah.
drugs involved. Like people have no idea, or they don't talk about it, one or the other. But
I think they
Well,
usually
and
don't talk
and
about it.
the sad thing about it, and I'm going to say this, and I'll probably be bashed for it. I don't care. Um,
Mm.
we were using, yeah, and it happened. Of course, I didn't find out till she was 12. Every time anything bad's happened to my kids, and I found out, I was in prison, and it's a God thing. Um, he has a warrant out right now for his arrest. He's still out there, free,
hmm,
not
Yeah.
living life, doing what he wants to do. When my
Yep.
mama told me about it when I was in prison, I said, "You got to be kidding me! I'm in here for something because I was high and did this little bitty felony that really ain't nothing. It was stupid, and he molested my daughter, and he's out there living life. Has a
Hmm.
yeah,
warrant,
Yeah.
but they'll come get me on a warrant for drugs. But they didn't go after him after he sexually molested a
Hmm.
7-year-old. But that's our justice system.
That I
So
was gonna say. Yep.
bash if you want. It's the truth. Something needs to change. But
Something needs to change.
yeah. So after that, I found out about it. My daughter has struggled because of that.
Mm.
Um, Mentally, she has, turned to drugs. She has done self harm. And that goes back to, children don't know how to deal with any kind of emotional pain on the inside. They act out. They
Hmm.
start having
Yeah.
sex at a young age. They turn to street life because here, mom is in prison. So they want me so bad. So maybe me getting close to my mom, I need to do the things that she was doing. Maybe I need to be like her
Hmm.
so I can get her attention. Or, maybe, go do what she's doing. Let me try, and it's wrong. It's wrong. To this day, that man has still never been picked up.
yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and put this out there too. I'll tell you, when I got out of prison this last time, he reached out and was like, hey, beautiful, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Where are you at? My mental states, the thug Betsy, before I found God and changed my life. I said, oh, hey, what's up? What's your address? I want to come visit. Y'all, on the way to him, I had it planned. I knew what I was going to do. And my car broke down. I can work on cars. It wasn't going. That was God. I mean, every single time something bad in my life has happened and Betsy decided to take control in her way, God has intervened. And
God is like, Betsy, no, you're not. Yeah.
or I was in prison when I found out about it, because as a
Yeah.
mother, if somebody hurts your child, I'm going after you. Here I come, because the justice system does nothing. So I got out after that. We'll go back to Miss Ann's, because I could go all day on that, y'all. So, but after Kelsey had brought Caitlin, they came twice, and then of course Caitlin went back to Idaho. Um, Kelsey started to see a change in me. Now, she was married to a man. They were bad for each other. Um, he was a narcissist. He mentally drained her. He abused her mentally. Made her
Yeah.
think she was crazy. Took her to the doctor, put her on medicine, and then would hide them from her, take them away from her. And
What?
then when he saw, oh, I can't deal with her, then give them. You can't take meds, not take them. Take
Mhm.
meds, not take
Yeah.
them. He
Yeah.
alienated her from our family. So me and my daughter at this point, my oldest, really didn't have much of, I guess, memories. She had to ask permission if I was to come over there. It was a way for him to control the situation.
Yeah.
Kelsey met a man after her and Logan had split up. His name is Marco. I love him so, so much. Um, he's a Christian. His brother is a preacher. He came with Kelsey for me to meet him. And I mean, off the bat, I can read people. I guess sometimes it's a curse, sometimes it's not. I guess not when it comes to your children, but he made sure she was there every single weekend. And I'm not, it's funny because you had to have permission. We can only have visits on Sundays, but I would wake up sometimes and Kelsey would just be sitting on my bed. Hey, mom, get up, wake up.
Oh.
And I was like, "Does Miss A know you're here?" No, I just walked in, and that was her. She's so funny. Um, but I know that she was scared because everybody in her life had always left her. Um, she said she was abandoned, that points back to me, and I take full blame on that. I was a terrible mom. I was not there for her. Her dad was a drug addict. If it wasn't for her grandparents, my mom, my aunt B, and I guess stepping up, um, she wouldn't be who she is. But so Marco made sure she was there every single visit. And I know Marco told me not too long ago, he said, Betsy, the first time we came, Kelsey said, man, this ain't nothing. My mama's not going to change. I've seen this over and over and over. And Marco said, look, I don't know her that well, but I see something in her. Give her a chance. So that she was like, okay, well, somebody else telling her that, she kind of backed off a little bit. My daughters are very blunt and outspoken. I don't have to worry about them. They can take care of themselves. My son is a gentle giant, but don't push his button. That's my babies. But so I told you I got saved. I asked Jesus in my heart. It was July 23rd. I got baptized July 30th. Kelsey was there, and I remember Miss Ann told her, "Sit out here, and you're not going up there because there's not room." So me and Miss Ann went up to the baptismal bathtub thing, and I look up as I'm getting in the water. Here comes Kelsey behind the preacher on the opposite side. Behind him, she's down in the water, dress pulled up to her knees, and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, Kelsey, you!" And the preacher goes, "Oh, she's fine," So that was just precious. I love telling that story. So
I love it.
yeah, October 29th, Kelsey came to see me, and she was glowing. I was like, "Baby, what is going on?" And she said, "So I just want you to know, Mom." She said, "I'm so proud of you, and I really, really see a change in you, and you've really, really done this Jesus thing, so it's worked for you. So I made a decision today, and I got baptized, and I dedicated my life to Him." And I remember I grabbed her and loved on her and hugged her, and that was the last day that I saw Kelsey. Um, she got hurt, well, killed in a wreck on November 3rd. And I'm going to go into detail about it because the whole situation, I could have handled it differently, being the old version of me. But forgiveness is very important when it comes to you wanting to make a change in your life, wanting to become somebody new, wanting to do something different. So you've got to actually take those steps. It was a Friday night, and Kelsey has a dog, Mia. She was a standard poodle. It was her baby. I know y'all were dog people too, and y'all just lost yours. And it's so sad. So Mia ran out of the house, and y'all, Kelsey was always the type. She was totally against drugs, period, and unless they were prescribed. She smoked marijuana. She drank before, but she was prescribed Xanax, a very high dose, 4 times a day. She had really, really bad anxiety. Um, because of everything that me and her daddy had put her through. And so the dog ran out of the house. So Kelsey runs out barefoot and after her. Marco, bless his heart, goes out behind her. And there's sticker burrs everywhere. I don't know if y'all have them in New York, but they are so bad in the South. And so Marco ran out. I was like, baby, don't move. I'm going to get the golf cart. And we will go get Mia. It's going to be fine. He ran and got the golf cart. And when he got back over to the road, they lived on a main highway. I mean, there were cars stopped and a big scene, and he ran over. The first 911 call was a dog had been hit. And they said the dog was hit and she flew over into a ditch. And then there was a second 911 call that there was a young girl sitting in the turning lane. So as Kelsey got up to walk back to the house, a young girl hit her. And she was only 18. It didn't kill Kelsey instantly. But I know that her legs were broken. She had broken bones on the inside. And I know people are looking at me and say, how is she not bawling? I give my testimony a lot. I have been talking about this for a very long time.
It makes
she had me in tears 2 nights ago on the phone.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I was just gonna say, like, I still, like, I could probably hear it 100 times and still want to cry.
I have my moments, and I break down.
The thing is with you, like, you owning your shit, like, oh man. I think the key to change, I think the key to people to be able to even ever have a chance of getting out of any sort of addiction is owning your shit.
Yeah.
Because everybody, including me, I'm sure as fuck not perfect. I screw up all the time. Ask her. Like, everybody is fucked up. Everybody's flawed. Nobody's perfect. Like,
and we're all trying.
Yeah, and
to
like,
live.
And if you're in that lifestyle that so many fucking people, excuse my language, are in, like, you gotta, I've never done anything wrong in my life where I didn't know I'm doing something wrong. And I'm pretty sure there's nobody on this planet that's ever done meth or heroin or whatever and like thought to themselves, oh, I think this is a good decision.
Right. Right. But we always talk about, like, people, you need to own your shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, like, you fuck up, own your shit.
Your life's never going to get better until you can take accountability for your actions.
Yeah.
That's my belief. I may be wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. And early on in my addiction, I blamed everybody else because I didn't want to stop. When I finally got to my bottom, when I told y'all my family was done, I was like, you know what? I've got to do this for me. And I've got to stop blaming everybody else. When I took that first step of saying out loud, like, Betsy, you are the problem. What you are doing is the problem. Stop blaming everybody else. Take ownership for what you've done. And it's like, as soon as I started doing that, y'all, the weight lifts. And once you say it out loud, it's easier to say it out loud again. Something changes inside and your brain switches. And I don't want to take all the credit though, really, because God is the only reason that I am where I am today. With him, all things are possible. But I tell people all the time, like, stop playing victim. Stop blaming everybody else. You got high. He didn't put a gun to your head and tell you to do it. You did it because you like doing it. Admit you got addicted. Addiction is a disease. But you got to come to a point to where you are done. the stuff is going to just stop working eventually, or you're going to be so low that, I mean, like, your family's done. People are done. I was sick and tired. Prison didn't stop me. I mean, my mentality was, okay, I know that I'm going to end up in prison, but I'm going to play the game of, it ain't going to be on their
Mm-hmm.
time. It's going to be on my time. Y'all are going to have to
Yeah.
catch me. Y'all are going to find me when I want you to. You can't beat
Yeah.
the system. When you are a convicted felon and you are breaking the law and you have to report to a parole officer, which, y'all, I was on parole for 20 years. And I don't mean on off, on off. I mean for 20 years straight. And a lot of that time I had to report every week or every 2 weeks because they considered me a runner because I've absconded so many times. And so they had put me on intense probation or parole. And sometimes I was on probation and parole, which is called dual status because I caught new charges or I was in prison and they hit me with something else. And so I come out on one case from probation, another one I'm coming out on parole. It was just, it was chaos. I wasn't comfortable unless there was chaos going on around me. And that gets very tiring. It will wear you down. And when, I finally realized, like, I can't beat this system. They're always going to win, especially when it comes to a drug addict, because I guess that's
Mm-hmm.
the easiest thing for them to go after, less paperwork. I don't know. I'm already on paper. Here I am. They know who I am. I've got the X over my head. So let's just go get her. So our
So
paperwork.
wait, so you mean to tell me you think that this government and the society treats drug addicts differently? Who would have thought?
Right. Absolutely.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
okay,
you
so
know, and
now,
I,
and since we brought that up, and it triggered something else, I'm going to go back to my son's father when he passed away. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I told y'all I had to just bust through the middle of everybody because everybody was so sick, I guess, from the smell. Nothing ever came about my son's father. They never investigated. Come to find out, the man involved in it was ordering pills online through Bitcoin, which is untraceable, they say. Um, and I was living there when a package came in the mail, and it was blue pills. These pills were then sold as Xanax, and come to be, they were straight fentanyl. Um, Andy died. He did not do downers. He used meth, and he liked his Xanax. And that's what killed him. Mixing the two, taking too many of the straight fentanyl pills, and he didn't wake up. Um, 4 weeks later, same house that my son's father owned and lived in, another girl bought the same pills from the same guy, and she had been doing meth. She thought she was going to take some Xanax and go to sleep. She went to sleep and didn't wake up. Nothing has been done. No investigation. They have not looked at anything. And bottom line, the man's still living in the house.
Like I can't wrap my head around it. It infuriates me.
Yeah. And
I'm not shocked.
I'm sure they're going
No,
to be
it's
like,
not.
here Betsy goes. Here. Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
They already know who I am.
Yeah,
It's not shocking, but it should be, and people don't care, and I don't understand. Like, that's someone's child,
Yes.
well, I
like.
think for the drug situation as a whole, there's just either there's nobody advocating for change,
Mhm. Yeah.
or they're being intentionally silenced. It's
And
got to be one of the two.
yes, but people that are higher make it so hard for people to voice their opinion and try to make a change, so people give up easy. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, okay, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm going to just stop, because the other people make it so hard for anything to happen.
Yeah.
And two, people are scared to speak up and say anything. I
Yes.
get it.
Yeah.
If they've never been to prison, or they don't want the attention, or
Mhm.
the snitch label. Let me tell
Yeah.
y'all my whole outlook on that. I did 11 years in the penitentiary. I never told on anybody. I have 5 felonies. I'm only good for 3 because I lived by that mentality. You can't tell on
Yeah.
nobody. I did it. I'm going to go do my time. My mama, I remember calling home, standing in the day room one day, and I was having a bad day. And she said, Betsy, this code you live by, these people you protect, Do they write you? And I was like, no, ma'am. She said, do they send you money? I said, no, ma'am. She said, what about do they answer the phone when you call them? I said, no, ma'am. She said, I do. Your kids do. When are you going to put them first? When are you going to put yourself first and make a change? Because those people you're protecting, this street life, that stupid code has done nothing but keep you away from your kids, keep you in prison. I'm 44 years old now. You should have a house. You should almost be close to retirement. She said, when is it going to stop? When are you going to change? And, growing up in the streets, because after my dad walked out of my life, I turned to the streets and the drug life. It consumes you. The gangs were my family. And it's crazy the things that I've seen. It's crazy the things that I've been through. That's not even good for me to put on here, and I won't. But those people really don't care about you,
Yeah.
But we are an easy target for the police because it's less work that they have to do. But that
100%.
right there, I remember hitting my knees in the day room and just bawling. I mean, I was like, she is so right, And then, here come my daughter started saying the same thing. Like, Mom, why do you put drugs and men in front of me? I don't understand. My Kelsey, my oldest one, she came home when she was 11 years old. She said, Mom, I just graduated the DARE program. She said, I know when you're high, your mouth is moving side to side, your lips are sticking together, you have track marks on your arm, empty baggies. Wow. She said, I want to know why. Why are you getting high? Why are you putting men and drugs before me? She was 11. And I remember my mouth dropping. But I have always been honest with my children. I never held back. And that probably didn't help Kelsey's situation because, like I said, she grew up with me. I was 18 when I had her. But it made her strong in who she was, before she passed away. I mean, she was beautiful, so bullheaded, I guess, just like her mama, minus all the negatives. She didn't do the hard drugs and she didn't go to prison, but she didn't put up with nothing. But, that code, that protecting people, and it's stupid because usually, that's how I guess a lot of people are in prison right now that really aren't guilty because they're scared to say anything. And but I'm not going to lie, sometimes it can be dangerous. Kelsey's father was in that situation. I won't go into detail about it, but it was a very high up, I'll just say individual. And these people, this man ended up going to federal prison for 25 years because of my daughter's dad. And these people would sit in his mom and dad's driveway. Let me go back. Kelsey had just moved to Memphis. She had never lived here as an adult. Nobody knew her. She wasn't in that scene. And I remember in prison, I called her and I was like, hey, baby, what are you doing? Because it was almost, lights out, almost 10 o'clock. And she said, well, I'm in Memphis. I had to get gas. I said, where are you at? She said, 3rd and Crump. That is a very bad place. I said, do not go there to get gas. And she said, I'm going to run out. Then I'm going to be stuck here. I said, you pull up to that gas pump. You look around you and you tell me what you see. Do not get out. I said, you get out, put the card in, throw it back in your window, and you stay on this phone with me. And she pulled up and she said, Mom, there's a big jacked up truck next to me on the other pump, but there's a lot of men in the corner of the parking lot. I said, do not look at them. You get out, pump your gas, stay on the phone. So she did what I said, and she threw her card back in the window. And she said, Mom, somebody's walking up to me. And she told me what he looked like. I'm not going to repeat that. And I could hear the conversation. He said, hey, ain't you so-and-so's daughter? Said his name. And she looked and her mouth dropped. And I was like, are you kidding me? So it is dangerous. She got in the car because the guy I guess it was an Angel in the jacked up truck jumped out and said, honey, get in your car. I'll pump your gas. Y'all are going to leave her alone.
Oh my God. It gives me goosebumps.
But it is dangerous in some situations, but what Kelsey's dad did was wrong. but it was dangerous for my daughter. It was dangerous for his mom and dad. So the best way to not ever deal with any of that is make better decisions. I
Mm-hmm.
decided
Yeah,
not
make
to
good
ever,
Make
decisions.
good
yeah,
choices.
don't. I said, Betsy, just don't put yourself in that position to where you would have to tell on somebody.
Yeah.
So that too is when, the last trip in prison, I got out and was like, I've got to stop. I've got to make a change. No more pointing fingers, no more blaming. I'm not going to have to tell on nobody because I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to put myself in the situation. And I
Yeah.
haven't since then. But yeah, it's dangerous.
I
I'm not gonna quit recording because I got a question for you. Monica can go to
I
the
need to pee
bathroom.
really quick, but I'm taking this off. I'll be right back.
Oh yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? She's taking off her mic so
Yeah.
we don't hear her pee.
Yep. I'll be right back.
So so I got a couple things I want to talk to you about, like, because how many people have you known that will say, "Oh, my kids are my world," or men or women for that matter, anyone, my kids are my world, yet they don't put their kids before drugs. And it's like, if you're actively using meth, I would say if you're actively using any of the hard shit, in my opinion, like on a regular basis, then your kids are no longer your world. The drug is your world. And you have that choice, which is literally a light switch, as I like to say. You have that choice to turn it on or off, but your kids can be your world. But until you make that choice, they're not your world, no matter what you say. You can say all you want, but your actions speak much more volume than your
You're
words.
absolutely right. A lot of women now that I am involved with and help and deal with, they say, "Oh, I'm losing my kids. The court's going to take them away. I don't know what to do." And boom, they go right back to that street life and get high. After my daughter passed away, moms came to me and were like, how do you do this? I would have been right back out there. I would have went right back to the streets. I said, that's not solving anything. That
Yeah.
got you where you are. My daughter was proud of me. Point blank, bottom line, there's nothing that's going to take that away from me.
Thank
Nobody
God you
ever
had that
can.
before she. If so, I wonder if you never had that proud moment of your daughter being proud of you before she passed away. I wonder how that would have changed you after she passed away. I
Yeah.
wonder if you would have went back because you never experienced your daughter being proud. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm just.
If I really think God's plan, He sees the whole picture. He sees everything. He had a purpose for me my whole life. My
Mm-hmm.
mama has spent 44 years on her knees praying for me. Um, and God knew. I mean, I'm very strong minded. I'm very strong willed. He knew what I was going to do. He knew that this right here, what we're doing, was going to happen. Um, if I hadn't have really, really, totally surrendered everything to Him, and I hadn't changed, if I'd have been still in the street life when she passed away, I would be in prison right now the rest of my life or dead.
Yeah.
Bottom line again, it's a choice. People play victim. They run back to what they know. They run back to that comfort zone. The only thing constant in life is change. Change
Yeah.
scares everybody, but
Yeah.
Yep.
there's nothing constant but change. So I learned to be a chameleon, adapt to whatever situation you're
Mm-hmm.
in. Yes,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Kelsey telling me that I was proud of you first time ever. She looked me in the eye. She kissed me on the mouth. She said, "You are the mom I've always wanted today." And I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you. I even have a picture that she signed on the back and it says the same thing of me, her, and Marco at church. God allowed that to happen because He knew that I would hang on to that, I think, and I believe. Um, and that just made me remember, like when I said earlier about the forgiveness part, y'all, the little girl, I couldn't even imagine being 18 years old and hitting somebody and killing them. I reached out to the police department and was like, how is she doing? And they said, not good. She quit school. She's not coming out of her house. She doesn't want to drive. I said, can I reach out to her? And they said, we think that would be absolutely amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to her on Messenger and she didn't really get back with me at first, but she did finally. And she said, I'm sorry it's taken so long. I just don't really want to be on Facebook because of what everybody's saying. And I said, honey, I want you to know that I gave birth to Kelsey. I brought her in this world. Her mom, her Mimi, my mama and her brother and sister, Marco, all the people that she was with on a daily basis, all the people she loved, we forgive you. I said, my daughter is in heaven. We live in a fallen world. I said, I lived in the darkness for 25 years. I said, it would kill me if you went down that road. I said, I want you to know that you're beautiful. You are amazing. I said, people make mistakes. I said, God used you for part of his plan because my little girl had suffered so long because of me as a mother, my choices, because of her father's choices, because of just the whole situation that she was brought up in. I said, God said, no, my little girl suffered enough and I'm bringing her home. I remember after finding out she didn't make it, of course, I laid in fetal position for like an hour on Miss Ann's bed, but I went straight to my room and made a gratitude list. I said, God, thank you for letting me have her for 25 years. Thank you for her not having to go through the rehabilitation process of learning to walk again, learning to talk again, if she ever could. She might have been in a wheelchair. She might have been paralyzed. Thank you for her not having to go through that. Thank you for me having the opportunity for her to look me in the eye and say, Mom, I love you and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Um, at that moment right then, like a peace just came over me and the joy that was in my heart. And people might think I'm crazy, but after this happened, I remember my baby's in heaven, so I need to know everything about it. I've read every book there is on heaven. I know sitting on my bed, I remember praying, God, please, I need a different image because the sick people in this world that were on the scene took pictures of her laying there dying and they put them on Facebook. So that was the last image that I had of her.
I
And
don't understand.
yeah, it's sick. So I remember praying, like, God, you've got to show me something else. I can't have this image in my mind. And y'all, I didn't black out, but it's like everything in my room disappeared. And all I could see was bright white. I could see Jesus standing there in a white robe. Kelsey and Mia together. She had a little tan dress on. Her hair was long. Um, and she walks up kind of nervous, and Jesus put his hand out, and Kelsey took it. He raised his other hand up. The gates open. I can't see past the gates. But Kelsey steps up and goes, wow. And her and Mia take off running. Now, I believe I saw that and could see it because my faith is so strong today. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Bible, the cross, everything. And when you have strong faith like that, it is sky's the limit on what God can do and what he's going to give you and use you for. And after that right there, like when I think about her and I get sad, I go back to that image of, I know she's in heaven. God showed me that she's in heaven. And so with the little girl, I told her, I said, listen, baby, I said, I don't know if you know who Jesus is, but I need you to understand if you don't, I'm willing to pray with you and I will teach you. I said, stay off of this Facebook because these idiots on here that are making up all this stuff didn't even talk to Kelsey. They didn't know her.
Can't even entertain
And I
online
said,
shit.
her family that loved her, we forgive you. And I said, I want you to be in my life. I want to be able to check on you and make sure you're okay. And I just checked on her the other day and she's doing good. Um, and so forgiveness, y'all, bottom line is the only way to pure freedom from bondage in your own mind and in your own soul and in your own skin.
The power of forgiveness.
I didn't forgive my dad for 19 years, and I was a needle junkie the whole time. When I was at Miss Ann's, I finally broke down and finally forgave my dad. And I'll help everybody out. The way that you have truly forgiven somebody when you think about them and you don't want to kill them. That means you're on.
Why do you point it to me?
Not that I want to kill her. It just makes me think of people she doesn't like that she wants. Yeah.
When you think about them and you're really working on forgiving them and you ask God, hey, help me forgive these people, and you pray for them on a daily and you don't pray for God to take them, you know that you're on the right track with that.
Absolutely.
I've talked to Matt a handful of times about just a certain person in my past that I was like, never going to forgive them. I don't care. They're just going to be in a black voided space in my heart. It's just nothing. But one day, like I was thinking about past memories or whatever, and I didn't feel much of anything except it was a different feeling that I got knowing that I forgave this person. And I don't know how to explain it, but this whoosh of it's fine. Everything's okay. It's fine. It's just an amazing feeling that I wish everyone could feel with people maybe that have done them wrong or whatever.
Yeah, just being bitter towards anybody it does nothing but it hurts. But
it's like this freeing feeling. It is. It's like just it's lighter. Your shoulders aren't.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
The thing on that too, people think forgiveness, it means that, okay, well, you got to forgive them and make up and all that. Forgiveness is for you. You don't even have to tell that person you forgave them.
Exactly.
But when you start living your life right and you are truly following God and you are making better choices, better decisions, you've changed who you are on the inside, you're going to want to reach out and let those people know. Y'all, I've reached out to my dad. I've called, he don't answer. I've written, he don't respond. Miss Ann called my stepmom and told him about Kelsey, and she was very rude and had something really smart to say back to her. I said, I don't even want to know what she said because that's going to put me in a position that I'm trying to get away from. That's not
not back in prison.
Yeah. So bottom line, forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. It is for you. And then it loses it loses the power to control you. When you don't forgive somebody, they are controlling you.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, I agree. We're at an hour and 16, it says. So I'm going to cut this one.
Okay.
We can start a new one, flip the script and maybe go a little bit of a different direction. But
for those that kind of talk about, I've got to add, we'll have to cut this part out too, because I want to add Tracy into it. And kind of put, how he was there for me and a little bit about his story and
that's fine.
How I asked God, take everybody out of my life that don't need to be here. And he was the only one besides my family that God allowed to stay in my life. So I really need to put some stuff to him too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go pee too. So.
Okay. Real quick, I just want to say, for the people that are still watching, thank you. Thank you for the support. I don't believe they get much more real than this, but I think a lot of our podcasts have been real, just very different perspectives of life.
This
people
is
that
a very
stories,
different story that we've had on ever.
Yeah.
So,
and I think this is probably more common than anybody could imagine.
I don't like to say it, but more relatable to more people.
There's a lot of broken people living broken lives and broken situations that
and they
nobody's
think they
trying
don't
to
have
help.
a voice. Yeah, that's their problem.
Yes.
They think they don't have a voice and nobody's going to listen or no hope. And that's what my purpose is. I've got to get this out and let people know there's people out there with worse stories than me. There's people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's aren't as bad as me. But I got tired, and I'm not going to let that old me consume me, and I'm not going to let the system win. I'm not going to let that old lifestyle be the jacket that people have on me and how they judge me. Hey, that was me. That's the old me. God changed me. He changed my heart. Today, I'm not a victim anymore. I'm not blaming anybody else. I'm not I don't blame anybody else. I take full responsibility because I'm the one that made the choice, bottom line. I caused all the problems in my life and in my family, which in turn made my whole family act crazy because of me. So when you finally can say, hey, you're the problem, make a change. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Recovery is a choice. And you have to, bottom line, be ready to make a change.
Exactly. But I'm gonna cut this. For people that are watching, please, for the love of God, subscribing, liking, commenting, giving feedback, good or bad. I don't care if people want to talk shit. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
We want to hear.
Say something.
Yeah. Preferably constructive criticism. You don't have to just talk shit for no reason, but whatever. I don't care. You want to offend me. But we appreciate your support, and we also appreciate Betsy very much.
Oh my gosh, more than she probably even knows.
And
you. And
So,
I want this in there too, though. So y'all have my name, Betsy Bailey. You can find me on TikTok. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, all of it. If you are stuck and you don't want to do what I'm doing by telling your story, you can private message me. You can get in touch with me. I will find somewhere wherever you're at located. I have people all over. I will help you get some help.
awesome.
You can tell me your story. I listen. It's between me and you. Now my purpose in life is to let others know that recovery is possible and that there are people everywhere that have been through the things I have. And that's why I'm taking a stand. I'm telling my story because I'm ready to change the world one person at a time. So hit me up and I promise I will help you. I'll do whatever I can.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Betsy.
Yes.
And stay tuned for part 2,
Yeah.
which we're going to record shortly. Probably won't have it edited for a couple weeks, but at least the first one I'll get out as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks.